I'm now recording. Today we're going to start taking a look at some uses for files that we've done. Excuse me, let me get my thoughts correct. Today we're going to start to take a look at some uses for loops. Other than the traditional loops, there are some specific things that loops can be used for. And one of these is called input validation. Okay, so say I asked a user for a number and I'd like the number to be between 1 and 30. How can I check to make sure that number is between 1 and 30, but also how can I keep the program running? So this sounds like something that's repetitive. If it's not between 1 and 30, ask them to enter it again. Check again. If it's not between 1 and 30, ask them to enter it again. So my pseudocode would be something along the lines of ask for number, okay? And then I'm going to go with a while loop. And let's just say while, and I want to stay inside of this loop because for the input validation, I'm going to say if this number is bad, I need to ask for the number again. If it's good, I move on with the program. So while I still have parentheses, I have a left brace, ask for a number. I might want to put another message in here before I ask for a number. Might be a message where I display bad number. So I'm going to go back up to the while. While, and now I want the number to be between 1 and 30. So this actually, as I say it, I'm saying while, and if it's good between 1 and 30, I want to move on. If it's bad, I want to display bad number and ask for a new number. So what would make the number bad for me to stay inside of here? Well, one case would be if number is less than 1, okay? If that's true, then I want to go in and display a bad number or ask for a number. My other choice is the logical operator or, which is 2 bars, or number is greater than 30. So if one of those 2 cases is true, right, it's less than 1 or it's greater than 30, I'm going to be stuck down inside of here. So if I input the number 3 while 3 is less than 1, nope, that's not it, and so on. So I want to now take a look at putting this in some kind of code. So I'm going to share screen, and I'm going to share screen. Here we go. I'm going to go to JGrasp. And if you want to do this as well at home, I'm going to pause for about 2 seconds so you can get your JGrasp loaded up. And we're going to take a look at doing this input validation. So I'm going to ask for a number. So I have I'm calling it loops. I make sure I have an input, my preprocessor directive, and I do, input javax.swing.joptionPane. Okay. And again, you don't have to be typing this up at home. I know a lot of you type as we go along. You can just sit and watch and listen. That's absolutely fine. So I have a program called loops. I do public static void mains. I have a string for my input, and I'm probably going to have a string for my output. OUTSTR. They're my favorites, instra and outstra. Okay. And more frequently than you folks, I like to save and compile and run just to make sure I don't have any syntax errors. And I do, because I need a comma instead of a semicolon after instra. I like to keep my errors minimal. Okay. So I have a nice, simple, does nothing program, but my syntax up to this point looks pretty good. Now, in all of my programs, I have documentation down at the bottom where I have an example of an input, and it says input equals JOptionPane, show option dialog, please enter a value. And right beside it, I also have my integer.parseInt. So I'm going to be able to quickly put this in. Cutting and pasting is a lot of times easier than remembering syntax. So I need to change my input to instra. Instra equals J option pane, please enter a value. I'm okay with that. Now I need num. I need it declared an integer, int num. And now I say num equals integer.parseInt. And again, unlike a lot of you, I like to save and compile to make sure everything works. And I get an error in my integer.parseInt because I have input instead of instra. Okay. And again, I'm running this frequently. You folks are better than me. You can type your whole programs without errors. I can't do that. All right, please enter a value. 5, good. I'm happy. So far, so good. This is my pause to let some of you that are typing catch up. All right, so from my pseudocode, I said I'm going to use a while loop at this point. So documentation, input, validation, just so I know what I'm doing. And so I have my initial value. Remember I said there's 3 parts to dealing with the loop control variable. The one is an initial value. Well, guess what my loop control variable is? It's num. My loop is going to be controlled by what the value of num is. All right, while num less than 1. And again, I get nervous, so sometimes I put parentheses in just to be safe. While num is less than 1 or num is greater than 30. If that stuff happens, I want to get in the body of my loop. What do I want to do inside of the body? I want to say, hey, that's a bad number, and I'd like to have the user ask for a new number. Well, I have a lot of that up above in my instra J option pane, please enter a value. So I'm going to copy those 2 lines, that and my parse line, and put it inside the body. Oops, I missed the first one. All right, so please enter, I'm going to change my message. Bad number. Please enter a new number. And with a little luck, I get an error message. Why? Because
we didn't put a semicolon.
Yep, no, not a semicolon, because a semicolon would end my entire loop. Okay, that would say, oh, here's the body and done. What I was missing was an extra parentheses because I have one at the beginning and then, so I a little over parenthesize my program. And I'm going to compile and run it again. And with a little luck, it compiles, enter a value, 66. Oh, bad number, please enter a new value. Well, at least that part works. 25, and it sounds pretty good. All right, so the first part of my program was to use a while loop for input validation. So I'm going to go here, and it's before my first instra, and I'm going to make a note that this is my input section. All right. So right now I have a little body of a program. I have the input section which asks for a value, and then I do my validation, and it's all, I think it's all pretty good. And it runs, I should probably display a message that, yay, it works, or something like that. So I'm going to add a J option pane, show message dialog. I'm just putting a simple sentence here. And after null, comma, I'm going to put it's a valid number. And then I might as well print out num, something simple like that. All right. Now, if this was a program I had to submit, I would save it and upload it. Yay, I got this much going so far. You know, 5 is a number, it's a valid number, so that I get partial credit. I have something I'm submitting that compiles. It all looks good. Now, I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to indent my input section and that little bit of an output I had, all just a little bit more. And in a minute, I'm going to show you why. Hopefully it'll clear some things up. Uh-oh. So I'm just messing with my spacing. And hopefully I'm all happy. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. That's a good use of the while loop. Now, once again, the while loop was the pretest. It runs 0 or more times. Okay. I can use a while loop whenever I need a loop. It's up, it's good, and it's done. Second loop that we looked at was a loop to, we did that, we added an input validation. The next loop is to include a do while loop around all of this. Okay, so if I come back over here to where my pseudocode was, I need a while loop around what I just wrote. So I wrote the inside first. I'm working from the inside out. I did the guts. I got that to work. Now I'm going to use a while loop, and this time it's actually going to be a do while, because the run again option is good because I want it to at least run once to run it again. So if I get ready, I want to add a do while loop around this body. And the do while loop is going to look something like, okay, I'm going to ask the user something along the lines of, would you like to run again? Would you like to run again? And I'm going to put something you may have seen, and it's kind of common, parenthesis y/n. And I'm going to make them lowercase. Okay, I'm going to make them lowercase so that the user will enter a lowercase y or a lowercase n. So I asked the question. Now I need to input some sort of character because it's a lowercase y or an n. And then my while loop is, I want to do again, I want to do this while char is equal to lowercase y. And that will keep me running again. Okay, so I'm using a while loop for input validation. Now I'm taking a look at a do while loop, and one of its uses is a run again option. Another good use for a do while loop is a menu. So if I wanted to display the menu, that would be great, but I know I wanted to display it at least once. And eventually we'll do a menu type of program. All right, so let's go back to our screen again, back into Java, and I indented some things. So what I'm now going to do, I know I need a char, a character. So I'm going to go up above and say char ch up in my declaration section. I'm going to come down a little bit before that first input section, and I'm going to do a do. And everything now is indented because I did a little planning ahead of time. And here's my while at the bottom. So you see how I'm encasing it. And my while is going to work based on whether that ch is equal to single quote y single quote. Because remember, it's a character, not a string. All right. So what do I need right before I get to that while loop? I want to ask the user to, would you like to run again? So I'm going to steal my J option pane from up above. so I don't have to keep typing it in because I get some errors sometime. And I'm going to say, let's see, Instra. My question, Instra, would you like to run again? So in my double quotes, I'm going to put nothing because I didn't do it right. I'm going to start again. I'm going to replace the current string with would you like, like to run again? Question mark, y/n. Pretty good?
Yep.
Okay. And then I take that instra, and instead of integer.parseInt, I'm going to say ch equals, what was it for character? Does anybody know? Was it the whole word character? Was it char?
Or
Star.
Char dot parse char? I think I kind of like it. I'm going to save it just in case. And let's see if it runs. What happened? I have an error. A while is expected. What do we do with? Yeah, that's not my smartest moment. Go back up to the do. The next line, put a brace before the while. I need a right brace. The body of my do while loop needs to be in braces. Some languages it does not. Hopefully, if I compile it, it doesn't like the capital C for char. Let's try lowercase c. All right, somebody help me out with
you
my.
have a T instead of
Yeah,
E at parse.
I see that. Should that first one be a capital C as well?
No, it's too small, I think.
Oh yeah, I thought so too. Let's see if it works.
Uh,
Spell I got, yeah, I see it.
yeah.
Thanks. I knew exactly what you meant by integer dot parse. It does not like my what? It
I
doesn't
guess it's
like the,
all
Cars.
right. So did somebody look that up real quick? How we do the character to parse the character? Because I know what the answer is.
Can you capitalize the C again?
Watch this. Back. Ready? Instra dot char at 0. Somebody say, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. We don't parse a character from a string. We just use char at 0. A lot of you use that in your zip code. With the zip code, you either did zip code as a string or you did the zip code as an integer. Not a lot of posted solutions for people to look at, wishing there was, but there wasn't. Drum roll. Getting some good compiling. Please enter a value. 50. We know that's good. No, we don't. That's a bad number. 25. We know that's good. Would you like to run again? If I hit Y, please enter a value. 5. It's good. Would you like to run again? No. So I know a lot of you can't see my GUI pop up, but it was actually working. So we have a nice little program, and I'm going to save it again, just in case, that shows two uses, the while loop and the do while loop. Once again, I did that inner part first before I did my check to run again. Again, I'm just going to keep adding documentation in here so I know everything that's going on. Questions? Comments? All right, so the next example we're going to take a look at is how to basically what we call sort three numbers. And I'm going to do an algorithm kind of deal. I'm going to start with input num1, input num2, input num3. Okay? Lots and lots and lots of ways to do this. All right? I'm going to break it down one way. I'm going to start with what's the largest number. And again, there are so many ways to do this. And I'm going to show you a quick algorithm. I'm going to say, let's let large equal num. Sound good? Okay. I'm just going to use two if statements. If num2 is greater than large, large gets a value of num2. If num3 is greater than large, large gets a value of num3. So quick and easy way to find the largest. Later, we're going to start getting more and more into bigger sets of data, and probably more your next course, and how to do actual sorts, the code behind a sort. But we have to find a place to store that data first, so it's going to need to be stored inside of an array. All right. So that would take care of large. Would everybody agree small would be similar to what large is?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I could do the smallest and I could set it equal to num1 to start. And then I could check to see if num2 is less than small, just like I did up above, then small would equal num2. If num3 is less than small, small would equal num3. So that would be really similar to that second one up above. This is like the grin and bear it. You're going to get down and dirty, and this is how it's going to be figured out. And with your level of programming experience right now, this is what you would need to do. All right. The next one's a little trickier. I'm going to say middle equals num1. Okay. Now, give me a way to find out if num2 happens to be the middle. Lots of ways to do this.
If it's small,
We could say something like this. If num2 is not equal to large and num2 is not equal to small, so I could do something like this if I wanted. If num2 is not equal to large and num2 is not equal to small, then middle gets a value of num2. Again, lots of ways to do this. This is why when I assign programs and I see almost all of them look alike, I start to worry like there's collaboration going on, because there would be so many different ways to solve this. Could I have done it a different way? Could I have done something like this? If num3, let's see, if num3 is less than large and num3 is greater than small, then middle would be num3. Lots of different algorithms to follow. But yeah, this is one of those where, I broke it down into finding the largest, the smallest, and the middle kind of deal. Test data. Oh boy. Test data. I'd like 1, 2, and 3 for nums1, num2, and num3. I'd like 1, 3, and 2. Give me some more test data I would run to make sure this is gold. See if you can find a pattern. Give me a new value for num1.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. And then the next set might be something like,
3, 1, 2.
excellent, 3, 1, 2. I want a little more test data.
2,
2,
3, 1.
1, 3.
2, 1, 3 and 2, 3, 1. Just for kicks and giggles, what if I did 1, 2, and 1? What happens if there's equals? You know, we'd have to maybe take that in consideration. But at least those first 6 are definite good pieces of test data that I would use to test the program. Now, you notice I did all of this and I didn't write any code. I did it in paper and pencil. I can erase and on and on and on. And now programming is just typing. I have all of my thoughts down on paper. I have my test data that I want to use. And I would be ready to roll. Questions? Okay, good. I'm pausing again. Next thing we're going to talk about is loops number 3. This is called a for loop. Now, a for loop can only be used asterisk. I should put this in red to show emphasis. Used only when, why do I have a W in only? Used only when we know the exact iterations. Okay? Only used when we, what do I mean by that? Well, if I know that I want to use a loop 10 times, a for loop is great. If I want to use a loop 60 times, a for loop is great. Okay? Now, how does a for loop work? Well, basically a for loop works in that I can put it all 3 parts of the loop control variable in one line. And the syntax is kind of what you see on the screen, 4 parentheses, my initial value. Then I do my test, then I do the update or the increment. Okay, so I can start to do some possible loops that look like, now let's do this one, a classic for counter equals 1, counter is less than 11, counter plus plus. Okay, and I just messed up because at the very end, I put a semicolon, which says for all of this, do what's after the parentheses. What after the parentheses is a semicolon, which says do nothing. If you look up above, I even put in red, no, don't put a semicolon at the end of that line. It happens frequently. So I just put it there. I need to make sure I cross that out. So what follows the for is the body of the loop. What is it I want to do 10 times? I could do for counter equals 10 while counter is less than 200. Counter equals counter plus 10. I could start it at 10. I can increment by 10. How many times would this loop execute? Any ideas? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 180, 190, and it would stop. So this guy is actually going to execute 19 times. What about this example? For counter equals 11 while counter is greater than 1, counter minus minus. What numbers would get displayed here?
I think it will run for like 10 times.
Okay, I'm counting with my fingers. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That would stop. So 10 times. Okay, 10 times. I could have made this greater than or equal to 1. Now it will go 11 times. But you can start to see how this one line will control what's going to come next. Whatever is in that left brace all the way down to the right brace. Could just be something as simple as displaying hi mom that many times. All right, so what we're now going to do is, and I think I'm gonna turn you loose, let you do it on your own. So I want you to write a program using a for loop that goes and displays the numbers 1 to 10 in a message box, all on new lines. And that's got to be something where I'm putting inside the message box a string that I keep adding to the string, and then display it. And if you get that done, I'd like you to also, when you display it, to display a column 1 to 10, but now display the column beside it to be the squares of each of those numbers. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. So I'm going to turn the recording off. I'm going to have it on my screen and work on it. Y'all can work on it separately on your screen to try it on your own instead of always in a group. And if you have questions, just let me know.